There's a story about Las Vegas that doesn't get told enough. It's not about the mafia. It's not about Bugsy Siegel or the Rat Pack or the neon lights. It's about a billionaire who showed up in the middle of the night, bought half the strip, and accidentally turned Las Vegas into a legitimate business. His name was Howard Hughes, and for a brief period in the late 1960s, he owned more of Las Vegas than anyone else ever has. This is the story of how one man changed Vegas forever, without ever leaving his hotel room. To understand what Howard Hughes did in Las Vegas, you need to understand who he was before he got there. Howard Hughes was born in 1905 in Houston, Texas. His father invented a revolutionary oil drill bit and built a fortune from it. When his parents died, Hughes inherited that fortune at age 18. And then he did what most rich kids dream about. He moved to Hollywood and started making movies. Hughes became a film producer in the 1920s and the 1930s. He made big-budget films, and he pushed boundaries. He dated actresses, and he lived the glamorous Hollywood life. He was also obsessed with aviation. Hughes was not just a hobbyist pilot. He was one of the most skilled aviators of his era. He set multiple world speed records. He designed and built experimental aircraft. He founded Hughes Aircraft Company, which became a major defense contractor. By the 1940s, Howard Hughes was one of the most famous people in America. A billionaire playboy, a Hollywood mogul, an aviation pioneer, and then everything started to fall apart. In 1946, Hughes was piloting an experimental aircraft when it crashed. He survived, but barely. The injuries were catastrophic. Crushed chest, multiple broken bones, severe burns. He spent months in the hospital and the rest of his life in chronic pain. After the crash, Hughes became increasingly reclusive. He started exhibiting obsessive-compulsive behaviors, germophobia, and paranoia. He withdrew from public life. By the early 1960s, Hughes was living in near-total isolation, surrounded by a small team of personal aides who managed every aspect of his life. And that's when he decided to move to Las Vegas. On November 23, 1966, Howard Hughes arrived in Las Vegas in the middle of the night. He did not fly into the airport. He did not check into a hotel like a normal guest. He was transported in secret by train to avoid being seen in public. Hughes checked into the penthouse of the Desert Inn, one of the most prominent casinos on the Strip at the time. The plan was to stay for a few weeks, maybe a couple months. He ended up staying 4 years and he never left his suite. The penthouse became his entire world. He lived in one room, usually in bed or sitting in a chair, wearing nothing but a bathrobe. He refused to see anyone outside his small inner circle of aides. He communicated with the outside world through memos and phone calls. But here is the thing, just because Hughes was physically isolated did not mean he was inactive. From that penthouse suite, Howard Hughes started buying Las Vegas. A few months after Hughes moved in, the Desert Inn's management had a problem. The penthouse suite was their most valuable asset. They needed it for high rollers and VIP guests, especially during the busy holiday season, and Howard Hughes was just sitting up there, refusing to leave. So they asked him to move out. Hughes had a better idea. He bought the entire hotel. In March 1967, Hughes purchased the Desert Inn for $13.2 million, and that was just the beginning. Over the next 2 years, Hughes went on a buying spree that reshaped the Las Vegas Strip. He bought the Sands in 1967 for $14.6 million. The Sands was one of the most iconic properties in Vegas. Frank Sinatra performed there. The Rat Pack made it famous, and now it belonged to Howard Hughes. He bought the Frontier later that year for $14 million. He bought the Silver Slipper for $5.4 million because the rotating slipper sign on the roof was visible from his window and the lights bothered him. He bought the Castaways in 1969 for $3 million. He bought the Landmark, a struggling property that had not even officially opened yet, for $17.3 million, and he tried to buy more. Hughes made offers on Caesar's Palace, the Stardust, and the Dunes. Some of those deals fell through, but not because he could not afford them. By 1968, Howard Hughes owned 6 major casinos on the Las Vegas Strip. He controlled more hotel rooms, more gaming tables, and more slot machines than anyone else in Nevada. One man, sitting alone in a hotel suite, owned a significant chunk of Las Vegas. So why did he do it? Some people say Hughes saw Las Vegas as a business opportunity. He believed he could make the casinos more profitable by running them as legitimate corporations instead of mob-controlled operations. Some say it was about power and control. Hughes had lost control over his film studio and his airline. Buying Vegas gave him something he could dominate completely. Others say it was ego. Hughes wanted to build a legacy. He wanted to be remembered as the man who transformed Las Vegas. And some people think it was just because he could. Hughes had billions of dollars and nothing else to do. Buying casinos was a way to stay engaged with the world without actually having to interact with it. The truth is probably some combination of all of these. But whatever his reasons, Hughes' arrival in Las Vegas had massive consequences. Before Howard Hughes, Las Vegas had a reputation problem. The city was run by the mob. Everyone knew it. Organized crime controlled most of the major casinos. Skimming was rampant. Corruption was everywhere. Law enforcement looked the other way. The federal government was starting to crack down. The FBI was investigating. The IRS was auditing. Nevada's gaming regulators were under pressure to clean things up. And that's where Howard Hughes came in. Hughes was a legitimate businessman. He had corporate structures. He had lawyers and accountants. He paid taxes. He followed regulations. When Hughes started buying casinos, it gave Nevada cover. They could point to Hughes and say, look, Las Vegas is not just mob-controlled anymore. We have legitimate corporate ownership now. Hughes did not single-handedly drive the mob out of Vegas. That process took decades, but he accelerated it. He made it politically easier for Nevada to push the mob out because there was now a respectable alternative. Hughes also changed how casinos were financed and operated. Before Hughes, casinos were mostly privately held. Ownership structures were murky. Financial transparency was non-existent. Hughes ran his casinos as subsidiaries of Hughes Tool Company, a publicly traded corporation. That meant financial disclosures, audits, regulatory oversight. Other corporations saw what Hughes was doing and realized they could do it too. Within a few years, companies like Hilton, Holiday Inn, and MGM started buying or building casinos in Las Vegas. The corporate era of Las Vegas began because Howard Hughes proved it was possible. The way Hughes ran his Las Vegas empire was bizarre. He never visited any of the casinos he owned. He never walked a casino floor. He never met with executives in person. He never appeared in public. Everything was done through memos. Hughes would write long, rambling memos to his top aides, often in the middle of the night. He had opinions about everything. What shows should be booked, what food should be served, what the carpets should look like, and how loud the slot machines should be. He was obsessed with details that did not matter, and he ignored things that did. There is a famous story about Hughes spending weeks focused on a single issue, whether the Desert Inn should serve Polish sausage in the coffee shop. He wrote memo after memo, analyzing the pros and cons. Meanwhile, major business decisions were being delayed. He also had strange ideas about what would make Vegas successful. Hughes believed Las Vegas should be family-friendly. He wanted to get rid of the risque shows and replace them with wholesome entertainment. He thought Vegas should be less about sin and more about recreation. This was completely out of touch with what made Vegas appealing, but Hughes did not care. He was convinced he knew better. Most of his ideas were quietly ignored by the people actually running the properties. One of the strangest chapters of Hughes's time in Las Vegas involved his obsession with nuclear testing. The Nevada test site, located about 65 miles northwest of Las Vegas, was used for nuclear weapons testing throughout the 1950s and the 1960s. Above-ground tests had ended by the time Hughes arrived, but underground tests were still happening regularly. Hughes became convinced that the tests were dangerous. He believed the radiation was contaminating Las Vegas. He thought the ground tremors from the explosions were damaging his buildings. So he launched a campaign to stop them. Hughes spent millions of dollars lobbying the federal government. He wrote letters to President Lyndon Johnson and later President Richard Nixon. He hired lawyers and publicists. He funded scientific studies. He offered to personally pay the government to stop testing. He proposed moving the test site to Alaska. The government mostly ignored him. But Hughes kept pushing. He believed this was his mission. He was going to save Las Vegas from nuclear annihilation. The tests continued. By 1970, Hughes's grip on reality was slipping. His health was deteriorating. His paranoia was getting worse. His aides had almost total control over his life, and some of them were taking advantage of that control. In November 1970, Hughes was secretly moved out of Las Vegas in the middle of the night. His aides took him to the Bahamas, claiming it was for his health and safety. He never returned to Las Vegas. Hughes spent the last 6 years of his life moving between hotel suites in the Bahamas, Nicaragua, Canada, and Mexico. He became even more isolated. His physical and mental condition deteriorated further. He died on April 5, 1976, on a plane from Mexico to Houston. He was 70 years old. His body was so emaciated and neglected that fingerprints were needed to confirm his identity. After his death, his empire was dismantled. His casinos were sold off. Hughes' tool company was broken up. Legal battles over his estate dragged on for years. The Las Vegas properties that Hughes had owned were eventually absorbed into larger corporate portfolios or torn down and replaced. So what did Howard Hughes actually accomplish in Las Vegas? He did not build the city. He did not invent the casino. He did not create the Strip. But he changed the trajectory of Las Vegas in ways that still matter today. Hughes proved that casinos could be owned and operated by legitimate corporations. He showed that you did not need mob connections to run a successful gaming operation. He made it easier for publicly traded companies to enter the market. Within a decade of Hughes leaving Vegas, corporate ownership became the norm. The mob was pushed out. Wall Street moved in. Las Vegas became a business, not a racket. Hughes also demonstrated that one person with enough money and vision could reshape an entire city. He bought a significant portion of Las Vegas and bent it to his will, even if that will was often irrational and detached from reality. And in a strange way, Hughes gave Las Vegas legitimacy at a moment when it desperately needed it. The federal government was cracking down on organized crime. Nevada was trying to clean up its image. Hughes provided cover for that transition. He was the acceptable face of Las Vegas ownership, even though he himself was deeply eccentric and troubled. Here's the irony of the whole story. Howard Hughes spent 4 years living in Las Vegas without ever experiencing Las Vegas. He never gambled. He never saw a show. He never ate at one of his own restaurants. He never walked through one of his own casinos. He owned the Desert Inn, the Sands, the Frontier, some of the most famous properties in the world, and he experienced none of it. He sat alone in a dark room writing memos, watching movies, and slowly losing his mind. And yet, his impact on Las Vegas was enormous. He reshaped the ownership structure of the entire city. He accelerated the transition from mob control to corporate control. He legitimized Las Vegas as a business. All from a hotel suite he refused to leave. The Howard Hughes era in Las Vegas lasted less than 4 years. But those 4 years changed everything. Vegas before Hughes was mob-run, secretive and corrupt. Vegas after Hughes was corporate, regulated and financially transparent. That transformation did not happen overnight, and Hughes was not the only force driving it. But he was a catalyst. He proved it was possible. He made it acceptable. Today, Las Vegas is dominated by massive publicly traded corporations. MGM Resorts, Caesars Entertainment, Wynn Resorts. That model exists because Howard Hughes showed it could work. The casinos he owned are mostly gone now. The Desert Inn was imploded in 2001 to make way for Wynn Las Vegas. The Sands was imploded in 1996 to make way for the Venetian. The Frontier was imploded in 2007. But the influence remains. Howard Hughes did not save Las Vegas. He did not build modern Vegas, but he helped transition it from one era to the next. And he did it all without ever leaving his room.